Okay, these are some of my favorite shortcuts to be able to move quickly and effectively in Excel. So there's Control Z, which basically is the undo the last action. So for example, if I delete this, right, let's say Control Z, it's just going to undo whatever I did. If I change something, right, I can hit Control Z, and I can hit Control Z again, and it will go back through the last few steps of changes that I've made. So the next one is Control Shift and then a direction arrow. So if I hit Control Shift right, you'll notice it jumps all the way across until it comes to the first empty cell. Now if you look at these here, if I try that same thing here, Control Shift right, it stops the first time it hits an empty cell. If I hit Control Shift right again, it will jump until it comes to the next empty cell and stops. Right? Moves over. So Control Shift over to get to the end of something. Now, why that's beneficial is, for in this case, if this is, I don't know how many hundreds of rows deep this is, but suppose we need to copy out this and move it somewhere else. We could just start scrolling, but nobody wants to do that, and you end up making a mistake. So we're going to say Control Shift down. See that? And we can automatically jump to the bottom. Now I hit Control Shift up, and I'm back to the top. So say we needed to we needed to copy this whole table. We would say Control Shift right, and then Control Shift down, and we'll get the whole thing, right? So I'm going to jump back to the top by Control Shift up arrow key. Okay, so let's remember those two. Moving on. The next one is about inserting today's date in any cell. And the shortcut for that is Control semicolon. So I'm going to put it right here. Control semicolon, and that's always today's date. That's a nice handy one to remember. The next three are kind of related. We've got copy, paste, and paste special. So if you select anything and you go to copy, right, it's going to copy this information, and then you can hit paste. It's going to paste everything over there. Now it didn't just paste what was in the cell, it also pasted the cell formatting. You can see this is kind of this odd color. It got the fonts, and if there were any formulas in here, it copied the formulas as well. So I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that. Now the next one, so if I instead of hitting copy and paste, what I could do is I could say Control C, which is the same thing as copy, and then Control V is the same thing as paste, right? So anything we want to copy, Control C, Control V. Now I'm going to hit Control Z 2 times to undo all that. Now this one here is my favorite, Control Alt V. And the reason is let's suppose that right here in this column, you can see there's a formula. Okay, so let's say if I were to copy this here, and I wanted to put it over here, right? But I don't want these formulas. Excuse me. There's the formula. I just want the values, the end values. That's the benefit of Control Alt V, because what you're doing is a paste special. So if I said Control C, and under this I hit paste, but instead of actually clicking the button, I just hit that arrow at the bottom. You'll see I have all these different options. I could just paste the formula, and that means it won't drag the formats over here. Or I could just paste the values. And an easy way, if I just hit paste special, we can kind of see all of that in this little dialog box. So all I want to do here in this cell is I just want to paste the values. So if there were any formulas, it's going to flatten down. If there's any special formatting in the cells, we're not worried about it. I'm going to hit OK. Okay. Now this is really important, because a lot of times if you're working with something and you've got lots and lots of columns, and in here are tons and tons of formulas, it can really bog down your spreadsheet, especially if you've got it linked to multiple data sources. So sometimes it's convenient if you can Control C and then Control Alt V, and that brings this thing up, and then values, and then OK. And the way to speed that up really fast is just Control Alt V V. Okay, so Control C, Control Alt V V, and then Enter key. Whoops, try again. Go a little too fast. Control C, Control Alt V V, Enter. Right, and all we did was we pasted in the values, so we flattened down any formulas, and that's a very handy tool to remember if you use Excel a lot and you have to deal with a lot of formulas. Okay. So the last one is about using a locked range. So if you look here, we're going to delete this. What I did was I hit Control Shift down. Let me back up a second. Control Z. There it is. All right. So all I did was I hit Control Shift down to get to the bottom, and I hit Delete key. Right. So let's say that I'm going to put a formula, and it's going to be equal to this number right here times 10. Okay. Now I can copy this down, and it's just basically going to do that. It's going to multiply every one of those by 10. But let's suppose I wanted it to be somewhat more dynamic. Let's say that sometimes I need it to be 10, sometimes I need it to be by 15. All right. So that means I would have to go up here and change that to 15. And now I have to copy, Control C, jump to the bottom, Control V, paste in all those formulas all over again to make it multiply by 15. Well, we can get around that if we know that we're multiplying it by something that's going to change by locking it to this number here. Okay, so let's say that instead I want to say, let me clear out these, Control Shift down, delete. I want to say equal to this number times this number right here, K1. Now I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so basically it's 1500 times this number, which gives me 15. But if I try to copy that down, Control C and Control V right here, I'm going to get an error message. And the reason is because when the formula copies down, it's now trying to multiply this number by K2. And K2 is this text here, which doesn't make any sense. So this is going to give us an error. It's not going to work. But what we can do is we can lock it so that every time this calculation is done, it always multiplies it by this number here. And K1. And the way we do that is we're going to say H3 times K1. I'm going to come up here, click right there, and I'm going to hit F4, which is our lock target range right here. And what that does, it puts a $ in front of the K and in front of the 1. And the $ means lock to row K, and the $ in front of that means lock to row 1. So it's always locking this cell. So if I hit enter, now if I copy this down, you can see that every one of these is always referencing K1. And the reason, now here's another neat little trick. I'm going to put my mouse right here on this bottom right hand corner. As soon as it turns, I'm going to double click. It's going to copy that formula all the way to the bottom of my list. Okay. So the reason that's beneficial of locking a cell by simply hitting the F4 key is because now all of these are multiplying by 1500. But if I change this to 10, you can see that every one of these immediately changed because they're always referencing this right here. So rather than having to change the formula every time, I've locked it to this. So these 8 shortcuts, in my opinion, allow you to move extremely fast when you're manipulating data and working with Excel, so that you spend more time doing work and less time working with the tool, which is the way it should be. Okay, so thanks for watching. Please leave a comment below, smash that like button and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.